হ্যালো এভরিওয়ান, আমি জাহিন আবারও চলে এসেছি লাইভে আপনাদের সবার সাথে আমাদের ব্রিটিশ টিচার ড্যানকে নিয়ে। হ্যালো ড্যান।
Hey, good to be back. Is there a delay?
ইন্টারনেট একটু প্রবলেম করছে আজকে, সো আপনারা একটু কমেন্ট করে জানাবেন আমাকে ক্লিয়ারলি দেখা যাচ্ছে এবং শোনা যাচ্ছে কিনা। সো আপনারা কমেন্টসে জানাতে পারেন আমাকে দ্যাট আমাদেরকে ক্লিয়ারলি দেখা যাচ্ছে এবং শোনা যাচ্ছে কিনা। সো ড্যান, ক্যান ইউ হিয়ার মি ক্লিয়ারলি?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me? Or is there a
Yes,
delay?
I
I
can
think there's a
see you
delay.
and hear you clearly. Is there a
Okay,
delay
that's fine.
from my side?
There's no delay from your side, but when I speak, it seems to take a little while for you
Yeah,
to hear it, so there might be a delay on my
yeah.
side right now. Yeah. Okay. But I guess we can probably manage through somehow.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Internet is having a little bit technical issues today, but we'll try our best to deliver our speech and everything, okay?
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't be one of these streams if everything went smoothly. There's always some kind of internet problem at your end or my end, so it just adds fun to the stream.
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
So, uh, someone commented, "Hey, hello." যারাই আমাদেরকে
Hello.
দেখছেন, হ্যালো সবাইকে। আশা করি সবাই ভালো আছেন। আপনারা কে কোথা থেকে আমাদেরকে দেখছেন কমেন্ট করে জানাতে পারেন। সো আমি আপনাদের সবাইকে ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালি থ্যাংক ইউ বলতে পারবো আমাদের সাথে থাকার জন্য। আর লাইভটা কিন্তু শেয়ার করে দিতে ভুলবেন না আপনাদের ফ্রেন্ডস অ্যান্ড ফ্যামিলির সাথে। বিভিন্ন গ্রুপেও আপনারা চাইলে লাইভটা শেয়ার করতে পারেন এবং আপনাদের ফ্রেন্ডসদেরকে লাইভে ইনভাইট করতে পারেন। আপনারাও যদি চান আপনারা আমাদের লাইভে অ্যাড হয়ে আমাদের টিচারের সাথে স্পিকিং প্র্যাকটিস করতে পারেন। ড্যান হচ্ছেন একজন স্পেশালাইজড টিচার, এক্সপার্টাইজ আইএলস স্পিকিং এর উপরে। তিনি বিভিন্ন ধরনের ক্লাস করিয়ে থাকেন। সো আমাদের সাথেও উনি অ্যাড হন আপনাদের স্পিকিং নিয়ে কোনো ধরনের দুর্বলতা থাকলে তা মেটানোর জন্য, বা আপনাদের কোনো কনফিউশন থাকলে তা উনি অ্যান্সার করে দেন অলওয়েজ। সো আপনাদের যদি ইংরেজিতে কোনো ধরনের দুর্বলতা থাকে অর্থাৎ কথা বলার ক্ষেত্রে, সো আপনারা তা লিখে জানাতে পারেন আমাদের কমেন্টসে, এবং আপনারা যদি চান আমাদের লাইভে সরাসরি অ্যাডও হতে পারেন। আমি আমাদের লিঙ্কটা দিয়ে দিচ্ছি, যেটাতে আপনারা ক্লিক করলে সরাসরি আমার লাইভ স্ট্রিমে অ্যাড হওয়ার জন্য একটা রিকোয়েস্ট পাঠাবেন, এবং আপনারা যখন রিকোয়েস্ট পাঠাবেন আমি আপনাদেরকে অ্যাড করে দিব। অ্যাড করলে আপনারা সরাসরি আমাদের ব্রিটিশ টিচারের সাথে কনভারসেশন করতে পারবেন, কথা বলতে পারবেন এবং জেনে নিতে পারবেন যে কোনো কোয়ারির অ্যান্সার। সো আমরা একটু কমেন্টস দেখি। Turna Bashak said hello. Hello Turna.
Hello.
Marzana
Yeah.
gave love.
I was
Okay,
gonna say you're
lots
happy
of
here
love from
because
us to you.
yeah, you're gonna be happy here because everyone's saying hello to both of us today. It's not just me. We're both getting the love today.
Yeah, that's good actually. Marzana said hi, hello.
Hello. Ah,
Now he's back. Your
he's back.
favorite viewer.
Yes, my favorite commenter. I don't know, can
Yeah,
I say that? It's kind of like picking between your children. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say my favorite.
but he's very like wise, and the questions he asks are very,
Yeah,
high
actually, he
level
is.
questions.
Yeah, he keeps it interesting for sure.
Okay, so let's start. What are you going to discuss today with us then?
Well, today, since we've covered all the individual parts in the last 3 streams in one form or another, I'm going to do a quick overview of all 3 parts. And I'm going to try, because I've not done this before, I'm just going to try and actually present the paper so you guys can see what the paper kind of looks like as a whole. But it's one of those where I'm terrible with computers, so it might just fail altogether. But I'll give you guys a look at what the actual paper might look like, and you also get to see the hints, the exact hints that you would get with the cue card section. So I think that might be something fairly useful for you. So yeah, is it all right if I try and do that? Try present the screen.
By the way, we have a few more comments. Let's check. Boishaki
Oh,
Tushi said hello, hello.
hello.
Okay, so he wants to join. That's great.
Okay, yeah, all right. We'll do the questions live, like live, and see how that goes.
Okay, so নাইম রহমান, আপনি যদি চান আপনি ডেফিনেটলি আমাদের লাইভে জয়েন করতে পারবেন। আমাদের লাইভের যে লিংকটা আছে সেটা কমেন্টসে দেওয়া আছে, একটু প্লিজ কমেন্ট সেকশনটা চেক করেন। কমেন্টসে আপনি লাইভের লিংকটা পেয়ে যাবেন, ওটাতে আপনি ক্লিক করেন বা ওটা কপি করে আপনি আপনার গুগল ক্রোমে পেস্ট করে ওটাতে এন্টার করার ট্রাই করেন। যখনই আপনি ওই লিংকে ঢুকতে পারবেন তখনই আমার কাছে রিকোয়েস্ট আসবে, আমি অ্যাড করে নিলে আপনি ডিরেক্ট কথা বলতে পারবেন আপনার ফেভারিট টিচার ড্যানের সাথে।
Yeah, okay. So we're having a live guest, the number one commenter, live guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that sounds like it'll be fun. Oh well, I guess until he joins, do you want me to make a start on this?
Yeah.
Right, okay, I'm gonna try and see if I can get the screen share to work, but I'm not sure if it'll definitely work. And I'll try doing this.
Okay, he already came.
Oh, he's already here. That was fast.
Hi sir, hi ma'am, how are you?
Hi, we're good. How are you?
I'm fine.
It's actually good to see you properly. You can ask the questions directly now. Oh, is there? I think there's still a delay.
Okay. So আমাদের এই ভিউয়ার
Oh, I didn't quite hear what was said there because my
Can you hear me
the
properly,
connection just went.
Dan?
I can hear you now. Yeah, it just for a second it kind of cut out completely. So I'm not sure what that is. But yeah. So I don't know what you want to do. I'm not sure if you're willing to be a little bit tested on stream.
Would you like to give him some tips, Dan?
Some tips.
I have a question.
You have a question?
I have a question.
Excellent. Excellent. Go ahead.
Is tense important if I have to score good marks in IELTS?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. It broke up a little bit.
Is tense important if I have to score good marks in IELTS?
My connection's going. Hang on. Sorry. The internet's not very good at my end right now. Do you guys mind bearing with me 1 second whilst I switch over to a different network to see if I can make it work? Because right now it's not really not very clear, unfortunately. I'm sorry about this. Let me try that.
Can you repeat your question again, Naeem?
I said, is tense important?
Okay,
I
seems
have
like
to score
internet
good
is
marks
having
in
a lot
IELTS.
of-
Okay, I'm back. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sir,
Okay,
I said, you can hear me?
I can hear you now. Yep.
I said, is tense important if I have to score good marks in IELTS?
I still didn't quite catch that. I'm so sorry.
I said tense important. Tense.
Oh, sorry, tense.
Past.
Okay, tense. Yes, tense is important.
Tense.
I mean, it depends on the question that you are asked. But given that I find that a lot of these questions are based on opinion and possibly experiences. So, yeah, I would often say you'll find yourself talking in the past tense quite a lot in various forms because you'll be talking about things that you may have come across in your life before. So you definitely want to get good at being able to use that. When it comes to talking about, the future, it's probably not going to be quite as common. However, just like all the skills that you'll be demonstrating in the IELTS test, they all kind of have a little bit of importance. I mean, the more that you can put into it, the higher your score will be. I'm just going to try and find an example question of where you could maybe mix everything up a little bit. So, let me have a look. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm looking at this question here, and it is, what is your favorite sport? Nice, simple one like that. So I think normally you're going to start these questions talking in the present, just, because it's asking what your opinion is. So what is your current opinion? It would be, so for me, my favorite sport is rugby. So like I say, open up in the present, but then
Okay.
to try and explain why that's my favorite sport, I'm going to start talking about my past experiences. So I would open up with my favorite sport is rugby. I like rugby this much because when I was a child, I used to play it all the time. I think from the age of maybe 10 through to 15 on the weekends. And over the years, it became my favorite sport. So, yeah, it's one of those where in that answer, I've kind of used mainly the past tense to actually answer it. So I would say that if you're actually looking for what's most important, you want to be able to speak in the present and the past the most, but you will get questions like this one here, which is, what do you think will be popular in the future? Again, you can possibly start your answer in the present, saying, I don't know, right now, the most popular sport in England is football, but I think that, I don't know, cricket will become more and more popular as the years go by. I think that it's a far more interesting sport, and therefore, when more people find out about it, it will become more popular. So in that one, you're kind of bouncing backwards and forwards a little bit between sort of the present and the future. So I would definitely say that being able to seamlessly move between the different tenses will it'll look really good. You can probably get away with maybe just talking in the present for the first bits of your answers, but after that, it won't help you very much. So yeah, I would say it's incredibly important. So yeah,
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I
it's
got
no
it.
problem.
Thank you.
Good. I'm glad that we've kind of got this connection thing sorted mostly.
Yeah.
At least I
Mostly
think we
it's
do.
sorted now. Okay. আপনার কি আর কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে?
Maybe
নাই?
not.
I
Hello?
have another one question.
Okay. হ্যাঁ, প্লিজ বলেন।
Sorry, I cut out
That
again there. I had like completely cut out. I don't know what's going on with my connection right now.
Okay. Dan, can you see and hear me properly?
I can right now, but I couldn't a minute ago. It went totally
Okay.
black. Yeah.
So he was saying that he has another question. So
Oh.
let's check that.
Okay. Yeah.
can I use my own personal experience as example in part 3 IELTS?
hang on. He froze
Can I
again.
use my own?
All right, as you say, you were asking about your own personal experience in your answers.
In part
Example
3.
to part three. Part
In
three.
part three specifically. Okay. Yeah. So I would always recommend that you try to use your personal experience. Not because it's required, because if you want, you can just make everything up. You can just imagine something and, use that as your answer. But in all of the parts, I would say it's easier to use your own personal experience because it's easier to talk from memory as opposed to having to make something up on the spot, then translate it, and then speak. If you just have to remember, you'll find it a lot easier. So, yeah, I would recommend using your own experience as the default strategy. But if you don't have any experience on that particular topic, then you can make something up. But you'll find it easier, especially in part 3. You'll find it easier to talk about your own experience. I'll find an example here. So, okay. So this question is: how important is it to exchange gifts? Explain the advantages. So in this one, it's talking about your opinion, and if it's talking about your opinion, then you can only really base your opinion on your experience. If you want an easy way to answer, so you could answer with, I believe that it's incredibly important to exchange gifts because when I was a child growing up, I used to get so excited when someone would bring me a gift, and those memories have stuck with me. So now, even as an adult, I appreciate any time I receive a gift, as I believe it's a good way for someone to show their affection or show that they care about you. In addition to that, I enjoy giving gifts to people because I like to see my friends and my loved ones be so happy when they receive a gift from me. So that whole question was more or less my own opinion, my own past experience, because if I had to try and make that up, it would be incredibly difficult. I would probably even though English is my first language, I wouldn't be able to make up an answer. It would be very hard. If I was to make up an answer completely different to my experience, I wouldn't even know where to start. Let's say I was wanting to go down the opposite track. So my honest opinion is that I do think it's important. But let's say I wanted to make up an answer and say I don't think it's important to exchange gifts. Well, I was gonna say it's harder. So I have to try and imagine something because I'd say it's not important to exchange gifts because when I was a child, no one gave me gifts, and because of that, anytime I see someone receiving a gift, I get incredibly angry. Yeah, I don't know. I'm having problems trying to answer that question from my imagination, even though it's my first language. So it's easier to stick with personal experience. So yeah. Oh, you're muted.
ওকে। সো নাইম, আপনি কি আপনার প্রশ্নের উত্তরগুলো পেয়েছেন ঠিকমতো?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You are very good.
That's no
I like
problem.
you.
It's good to see you. I'm happy we could talk.
He really likes you.
Yeah, I
Sir
like him too.
also likes you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I love being able to actually speak to you properly to get the questions this time. I enjoyed it.
ওকে।
Thank
সো
you, sir.
থ্যাংক ইউ নাইম। আমাদের সাথে থাকার জন্য, আমাদের লাইভে জয়েন করার জন্য আপনাকে অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ। আবারও আসবেন আমাদের লাইভে। এভাবে আপনার বিভিন্ন ধরনের কোয়েশ্চেন থাকলে আমাদের ব্রিটিশ টিচার থেকে অ্যান্সার জেনে নেবেন। থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ ওয়ান্স অ্যাগেন।
Yes. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Take care, sir. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Okay, that was really fun actually.
That was really fun. I enjoyed that. Although
Yeah.
I'm sure we're still going to get more questions in the comments
Yeah, we
from
already
him as
have
well.
a lot of questions. Let's
Oh, we
check
do.
them. Okay. Okay, so hello, hello,
Hello. Hello again.
hello once again. Hello, Dan. Good
Oh.
morning. See,
Ooh. Good morning.
that is a bit mean and rude, though.
Look,
Okay,
I'm sure he loves you too. Okay, I'm sure he loves you too. It's just yeah, he's just being polite because I'm the guest, maybe.
okay, okay. I need to be a guest now.
Yes, I'll do the stream and then you can be my guest. We'll do it that way.
All right, for sure,
Yeah.
I'll do that. Okay, so Mahmoud Ami wants to know how can I paraphrase the question asked to me by the examiner?
That's a good question. Because as I've said before, it is important to do that.
Yeah,
However, when you're thinking about it on the fly, it can be somewhat difficult to do. But for the most part, if you can't remember all of the technicalities behind it, you more or less flip the question over. So,
okay,
or you flip part of the question over. So, for example, the part 3 question I was using for the demonstration there, it was how important is it to, sorry, excuse me, how important is it to exchange gifts? Uh, it's usually easy to just open up still with using I think, in my opinion, from my point of view, from where I stand, all these kind of ways to open up the question to explain your opinion, and then follow it up with, in my opinion, it is. So instead of how important is it to exchange gifts, you basically want to make a decision, flip it around, and be it is or it isn't important to exchange gifts. So, sorry,
seems like
I've
you're
got.
having cough.
Hang on, I'll quickly take a. Yeah, that's better. Bit of a dry throat, I think. It's the cold weather.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's usually like the rule of thumb. So it's uh, if it's asking how important is something, you say it is important or it isn't important uh, for that particular thing. Looking for other ones, it's asking what factors should be considered when exchanging gifts. So that's the second question down. I would open up with I believe uh, the factors that are to be considered when exchanging gifts are, and I would continue my answer. So again, you more or less are just flipping the question around on itself and turning it into a bit more of a definite statement to kind of open up your opinion. But you only have to worry about doing that at the start of your answer. After you've done that little bit, you're all good. You're good to just continue with the rest of your answer however you want to do it. More examples is what is your favorite sport? Like before, my favorite sport is. So it's no different to if someone says what is your name and you reply my name is. It's kind of the same idea. It maybe sounds more complicated, but it's the same concept, and you probably do it all the time when you are
Yeah.
answering questions. So you kind of just want to answer it the way you would any other question. What is your name? How are you feeling? It's like, how are you feeling? I am feeling good. It, it's the same principle as what you just use in everyday conversation. So um, you don't want to overthink it too much, because if you do that and you over sorry, if you do that
Okay.
and you overcomplicate it, then it uh, could result in you getting a bit panicked in the exam and maybe saying it wrong. So yeah.
Okay. So we have more questions. Let's move towards them. I have a
hmm
great issues with pronunciation. Can you suggest some ways how can I improve it? Please explain.
Yes. So we've covered this one a little bit. I think a lot of you worry about pronunciation. Uh, it's a, and to be fair, it's a difficult part. It's like the final part that you're trying to uh, polish out, I
Polish the
guess.
English actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, once you get everything else in place, uh, the pronunciation is kind of the only thing left to do. So it's a problem that I think everyone will come up against eventually. But for the most part, it's all about just trying to mimic as best you can, getting used to hearing people pronounce English properly. I think we talked about the crown. Was it the crown? We were talking about the crown in one of the streams because they've got a very strong traditional English accent. So if you're trying to produce that English accent, getting used to hearing it first is a good step. Getting used to practicing it with either a partner or by recording it and then listening back and comparing your accent to
Yeah.
a native English accent. And then the other one that I always recommend is go online and find the types of exercises that singers use to strengthen their vocal cords. Because when it comes to getting the pronunciation perfect, you guys all use different parts of your voice for your native language than what I do for English. So in the same way that you can't mimic my accent very easily, I can't mimic your accents very easily. So to get around that, you need to focus on strengthening your whole, everything. You need to strengthen your tongue. You need to get your lips used to moving in a certain way. Your voice box, your voice cords, like they need to all be strengthened, or at least you need to strengthen the ones that aren't used in your own personal language, native language. So go online, look for some singing exercises, all them things they do, and they go ho 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 ho, all that stuff, and that'll strengthen. You don't want to hear me sing, trust me, but that'll strengthen all of the part, all the muscles and all the bits that go into making your voice sound how it is. And I think if you do that and then try and mimic and just make sure that you constantly compare, you'll eventually be able to kind of match the accent nearly perfectly. And if you're looking for a slightly easier accent to mimic, often the American accent, because it's a lot softer, it's usually a little bit easier to try and do than the English accent. And you've got plenty of American movies and TV shows that you can go and use to find examples of that. But like British English is it's sometimes quite difficult to nail a specific accent because I sound different to the person from the next city over. We have like a huge diversity of accents.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really do. Some people don't even understand me in England, so I mean,
At
I'm trying to
first,
speak
I
as
was
clearly.
having very much hard time to understand your English. I won't
Yeah.
lie, I'm confessing it in live, literally. At first, I used to have a lot of difficulties understanding your accent.
Yes, and don't feel bad because other English natives
That's
don't understand
fine,
each other.
right?
Yeah. Like, I don't understand some people from Yorkshire. I definitely don't understand people from Glasgow, which is a place in Scotland.
Okay.
I don't understand any of those. So it,
So I'm
yeah,
not the
if
only one. Thank
you're
God.
not the only one, don't worry. You're not the only one. And if you guys are wanting to practice the accent, that's great. But if you want a slightly easier way to sound like a native English speaker, American English is an easier accent to try and mimic. So yeah,
American English is actually very easy to adopt and understand.
it is. It's
British
simpler.
English is very posh and it takes time to be used to of that.
Yeah, and we've got little quirks in our version of English, like when you've got like a T at the end of a word. We don't really always. Oh no, not even at the end of the word. We just like the letter T for some reason just gets lost in English all the time. So the word country, I would just
Also,
say country.
uh, the alphabet R gets
Hmm.
lost most of the times.
Yeah, unless it's. So I'm just looking at examples that I've got on my screen. So we've got like paraphrase. It's more like pa. We don't really do the hard like sound, so it's like paraphrase. You don't quite get that. The D on the end of words like asked, we pronounce that like a T. um, and then so I don't know, looking for other ones. So words like stuck, all right, we pronounce the T better, and sometimes it's a bit more pronounced. But other words, like I say, like country, or
Hmm?
future. We don't pronounce the T. And I think that's sometimes really complicated to try and mimic because it's a sound that we make that we just do because we're experienced at it, where we do like a weird sound at the back of our throat, and that's instead of a T, which, yeah, like if an American was to say country, they would be country. Like they really actually have the T there. So yeah, I would recommend American is probably the way to go for that.
Okay.
Sorry, I got carried away there. I got
So,
carried away talking about accents.
no, that's fine. So, we have another question. Marzana F wants to know, sometimes I get stuck between my speech. What can I do to overcome it? Actually, I also have this question.
Yeah. My first tip is to just not worry because everyone gets stuck, like when they're talking. Even if you'll notice it, maybe it's not so much because you don't put as much focus into when you're speaking your native language. But even when you're having like speaking in your native language and you're a little bit nervous, your brain will still go blank sometimes. So
True.
yeah, it doesn't matter if it happens in English too. All you have to worry about is trying to calm yourself down again when you're in the exam and give yourself a second to think. Just 1 or 2 seconds. I remember they did this experiment before. I can't remember exactly who did it or what the specific statistics for it were, but they got a bunch of people and they had to judge. They got them to give speeches, and when they gave the speeches, the people would sometimes get nervous and they would stop talking because they had to try and think. And after the speech, they would ask the person how long they thought they'd stop talking. And all these people were answering, oh, it was like a minute, it was 2 minutes. And in reality, it was only for about 5 seconds they maybe stopped. So when you're anxious, when you're nervous, and you start panicking and you have to take a break, that break for you feels like it's forever. It feels like such a huge break. But for the person you're talking to, they might not even notice it. So the best bet is just to try and stay composed. I always say, like, do a little bit of a breathing exercise. Breathe in through your nose, like, and out through your mouth, and it'll help calm yourself. Take a couple of steps back. So if you just finished a sentence and you can't remember what the next sentence is to follow up, then in your head just say that sentence again. And even worst case scenario, you can just sit there and go, I'm sorry, I lost my track of thought. Just give me 2 seconds, and then start again from that first sentence. So it's all about, I guess, a bit of a psychological trick just to keep yourself relaxed whilst you're on the spot and being able to keep your thoughts clear. And then, like I say, worst case scenario, just let the examiner know, just be like, sorry, I lost track of thought. I'll just start again, and then go back to that previous sentence, say that again, and by that point, your brain will have probably just relaxed into it and been able to go on to the next sentence. So yeah, and again, at the end of the day, they're not going to fail you for just saying, sorry, I lost my train of thought, because you guys have even seen it on stream. There are times when I'm talking and I literally just go blank and I have to say, sorry, I'll start again. So it's something you worry about because it's an exam, but it's not really anything to be concerned over. Sorry, I got distracted again and started talking.
Okay. So, Naim Rahman said, I really very enjoyed today. Thanks, sir and ma'am. Welcome. Welcome, Naim.
Yeah, you're welcome. We enjoyed it too. It was fun. Sorry about the
Yeah.
connection problems. That was my bad, I think. But once we got them sorted, it was fun.
Okay. So, last question for the day, and then we will be done for today. Okay.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
let's see the last question for the day, and that is from JK Waritsup. He wants to know, if I do the speaking practice with non native someone, will it be
Mhm.
good for my skill? Actually, it's a very important question, I must say. It's a very
It
relatable one.
is. It's a very difficult one because there are certain skills that you will pick up even if you're talking to a non-native. Um, but
Maybe
you could
their
also develop.
vocabulary range is very better.
Yeah, that's it. I think the important thing is to make sure that if you are going to rely on that heavily, to make sure that the other person speaking is a bit more advanced than you.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to happen is to pick up bad habits. If they makes a certain mistake in their grammar, or they make a certain mistake with the pronunciation of a particular word, and you try to mimic that, then you most likely will remember it the wrong way. So I think it's okay to practice and just get used to talking in general. I just think if you're gonna do it, it needs to be with a more advanced speaker. Um, and if you do it, you also have to be very careful to make sure that you don't use that as your only source of information. Because if you do, and they make a mistake, then you make the mistake, and we don't want that. So yeah, just be careful whilst you do it. But either way, it's good.
ওকে, সো দ্যাটস ইট ফর টুডে। থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ আপনাদের সবাইকে যারাই আমাদের লাইভের পাশে ছিলেন এবং শেষ পর্যন্ত দেখেছেন। আপনাদেরকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ আমাদের লাইভটা ধৈর্য সহকারে দেখার জন্য, আমাদের পাশে থাকার জন্য এবং বিভিন্ন ধরনের কোয়েশ্চেন্স যারা করেছেন, আমাদের লাইভটাকে ইন্টারঅ্যাক্টিভ করতে হেল্প করেছেন, তাদেরকে অনেক ধন্যবাদ। আশা করি আপনাদের আমাদের এই লাইভ সেশনগুলো খুব ভালো লাগে এবং মজা লাগে এবং আপনারা যদি আমাদের এই লাইভ সেশনগুলো পছন্দ করে থাকেন, তাহলে অবশ্যই নেক্সট লাইভেও জয়েন করে ফেলবেন আমাদের ব্রিটিশ টিচার ড্যানের সাথে সরাসরি কথা বলার জন্য। সো আজকের জন্য এতটুকুই। আবারও দেখা হবে আপনাদের সাথে আগামী লাইভে। আমার সাথে অবশ্যই ড্যান থাকবেন। সো ততদিন পর্যন্ত সবাই আমাদের পেজে চোখ রাখবেন। আমরা ইভেন্টের মাধ্যমে জানিয়ে দিব কখন, কোন দিন, কোন সময় আপনাদের সাথে আবার আমরা লাইভে আসবো। সো ততদিন পর্যন্ত সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন। So, Dan, thank you so much and bye bye. Have a nice day. And thanks a lot again for sharing all your valuable opinion with us and the viewers. Hope
It's
you
no
have a
problem.
nice day.
As always, I'm happy to be here. I hope you have a nice day too.
Okay. See you on next live. Okay.
Yeah. See you on the next live. Bye bye.